Excellent. My connection is excellent, apparently. Anyway, hello friends, welcome to the channel. Bob here. This is just haven't really done much at all for a while. I just haven't wanted to really. But also, I'm moving house, so yeah, we've been trying to move house now for about 6 months, but because of my solicitors, not my solicitors, but the person buying our house, their solicitor is shit. Like all solicitors, so it's taken ages to get to this point. But we're moving on Friday, so this is just a stream before then. Morning, Liz. How you doing? Yeah, this zone has lots of areas that you can't go to. They've got invisible barriers, so I think like a lot of the game, it's very unfinished. Actually, there's almost no mobs here. I was just exploring actually. Um, the spindly dude. Yeah, okay. That might be because it's night time, and when I turned on OBS, the screen was black, and I couldn't see anything. So I've just turned the camera up because it's night time essentially. What am I doing? I wasn't even taking any notes of what I was doing then. Yeah, it's funny. They still seem to do that now. Like, I've even watched like modern films where it's night time, but it's clear that it's clear it's daytime. But they got some weird filter on it to make it look like yeah. Not sure what that is over there. It might be doubly washed out because I'm using the NVIDIA gamma correction at night just so I can see better. Um, but increasing, but doing that. Holy shit! What is that? But doing that on my screen doesn't change it on OBS for some reason, even though OBS is capturing the monitor. So I've kind of had to do a double gamma correction. Do you know, I think this is probably the most disappointing game that I've played for a long time. I honestly only turned it on to play because it was just the easiest thing I had available. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's so unfinished, but I'm going to die here. Even giant skeletons like Grim Watcher Zarnak can't save it. It's just the whole thing is just so disappointing. I think it's just because, you know, I kind of feel like I've reached the end of my tether with regards to waiting for an MMO that's, but it's so disappointing. It wasn't even the fact, like I kind of got over all the mechanical changes that, well, I got over like the modernisation of EverQuest. I say that now. I mean, I got over the fact that this is kind of like more like WoW Classic with regards to mechanics and stuff. But it's so dull. It's so dull particularly as a player now who, like the population has just completely tanked. So there's hardly anyone playing it. And apparently going to merge servers and stuff, which is not a good thing. I mean, I'm assuming that they planned that they probably would have to merge servers at some point, which is fair enough. But the population has tanked. I mean, I logged in the other. I logged in the other day just to have a little check and stuff, and I logged in for a few days after, and you're looking at like a dozen people on my server. Now, admittedly, I logged into Embers Adrift again recently, and that had 5 people on, and there's only 1 server. So it's doing better than that, but even so, it's a dramatic drop from when it first came out. The problem is the experience. Unless you're in a full group, for the most part, the experience is just dull. The only stuff you've got to kill are bears and spiders, and it's so fucking dull. It's unbelievable after a while. It's the same with Embers Adrift. And it's not that there aren't interesting mobs to kill. So over here, there's some orcs, but it's group-only content. And so even if I brought over, it's kind of on-level group-only content for my character level. I've got 2 accounts. So even if I boxed and I brought over like one of my tanks, for example, or some DPS, we still can't really do anything because the group content is tuned so high that a lot of the time you kind of need a full group, particularly if it's on content. I don't understand it. It's the most. I mean, it's a million times worse than Embers Adrift. How binary the encounters are. It's either you can do it as a group, or you can't. There's no in between. There's no like learning your class and being really good at it so you can go and do stuff that maybe other people can't do or whatever, solo or duo, whatever it may be. It just basically it tells you exactly what you can fight and what you can't fight, and that is like, yeah, some of the worst design in that sense that I think I've ever seen. I mean, even in World of Warcraft, like I seem to remember, I'm like playing Classic WoW recently. You know, like I went into. How did that die? I wonder if that orc killed it. So even recently, like, you know, when I was playing Classic WoW, like you can go into dungeons where there are elites, and yeah, fair enough. It depends on your class, and you might need to be a few levels above them. But I found that I could still do stuff if I was on my own and there was no group. But here it is just the design is either you can or you can't, and it's just not. It's just dull. And unfortunately, from a content point of view, it just means that you just end up running around looking for animals to kill, and it really is the most boring experience you could have. It's funny because they've made some changes to Embers. I was thinking about doing a video about Embers again, just like an update of how things are going and stuff. And they have made some changes, but the core issues are still the same. The core issue is, and I know that people go, oh, it's an MMO, you know, completely misunderstanding MMOs. in the massively multiplayer part, which a lot of people seem to think. Well, some people seem to think the core audience, which is very small now for these games, seem to think that that means that everything should be a group. You should always be in a group, and you know, no MMOs since the beginning of time have been like that. Even the classic ones. And then Embers Adrift learned a lesson the hard way, because what they tried to put a band-aid on it. They've introduced like little solo loops to some of their dungeons, but obviously it's too little, too late now. And the other thing as well is that the solo loops literally take about 10 minutes to go around. It's not like it's a proper dungeon. It's literally just like a small loop off of the dungeon. Sorry, it's within the dungeon, but it's a little loop that branches off, and it's obviously nowhere near enough content. And you know, in this game, you don't even have that at the moment. You know, you can't log in and think to yourself, okay, I'm going to pop over to Guck or Nagina or whatever it may be, and I'll bop about and do some stuff. It's just that option is not available to you unless you get a group. You know, and I just think it's I mean, personally, I just think it's not very good design. Because MMOs have never been this way. You've never had to be in a group. Sorry, you never had to be in a group to do stuff. It was not a requirement. And yeah, I mean, this has got some content that you can go around and do solo, but it literally is almost all animals, and it's incredibly tedious. I don't quite understand how we got to this kind of, and it does seem to be like I don't know who thought that this is the way to go, and it does seem as though it's like a trend, you know, where people are misinterpreting grouping in MMOs to a point where they're kind of forcing it upon you to do any content that's even remotely interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. I mean, that's saying again. We go back to classic EverQuest. I mean, I never minded that there was discrepancies in classes with regards to soloing, but at least there were classes where it was an option. You know, I think this is a Lost Orc. And since I've been running around much of the area, yeah, I mean, he's kind of reddish anyway. See, this is how the game should be balanced. Why is it not balanced on level? So this dude is red, or orangey red, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, I can't fight him at the moment. Fair enough. I'll go somewhere else. But I know that when I gain experience and I work my way forward and I progress with my character, then I can then come back and fight him. But I would say a vast majority of the interesting camps that I've found are not that way. You know, the mobs have got a chevron, which means that you can never come back and level off of them anyway. It just seems like a waste of content, particularly now where there's hardly anyone playing. So you've got all this content around that is not being interacted with in any way. Yeah. Yeah, I think they did like although this water's got no texture at all. It's just like a grey, murky. Yeah, sorry, you can swim in the water now. Yeah, at least they've got that. There was an Unreal Engine 6 upgrade recently, and people said how good the water looks now, but this is just a grey mass. I don't quite know. There's no texture or anything, doesn't look like. It's just a... Let's have a look around. It's funny as well because I honestly feel that the real issue that these games have got, apart from the devs' stubborn-headedness and their interpretation of how they, I don't know. The thing is that some of these guys work on EverQuest, for God's sake. I mean, they must be aware of it. Or maybe, I think, as we've said before as well, maybe they're just not going for EverQuest, they're going for Classic WoW. So it makes pretty much all of what I'm saying pointless. But a big issue, and I think it's always been the case, is always the audience. I was watching a stream yesterday of someone playing Pantheon, and one of the developers came in, and it was just the sort of players who feel that they're the only type of player that play the game. One of them was moaning about how easy it was to level, how quick it was to level, and it's not really in comparison to EverQuest. Like maybe if you're not a normal human being and you play 15 hours a day or something, you know, then I guess so, yeah, but it's really not that quick to level. It's certainly not as fast as P99. And other bits and pieces, you know. The same with Embers Adrift. Like there's a minority of players who want their game to be a certain way, and they push for it to be a certain way. And unfortunately, because a lot of people stop playing, like they're the only audience that the developers have to listen to. So it seems as though they just listen to them. Yeah, it's a shame, but there you go. You know, I've said before, I kind of mostly given up on MMOs for now. I've been playing some P99 again a bit. So when I move, I'll probably do that a bit more. Oh, a little cave. This is a druid, by the way, who, again, feels quite uninspiring. Kind of like a bit EverQuesty, I suppose. One thing I do like about the healers in the game is that each class, the cleric or the priest or whatever, and the druid and the shaman have different ways of healing, which I quite like. Wants me to right click something. Oh, my little dog. There's a teleport here. I guess this must be a dungeon then. No idea. Does it start today? Is it only on today? I must confess. I mean, like I haven't really played the Monsters of Memory stuff. Oh, this is Halnir's Cave. Chevrons, no. Can you imagine coming into a dungeon in EverQuest on P99, coming in and going, oh, okay, bye. But what? What is it all about? Why is it the case? I don't understand it. Okay, yeah, it's probably too late for me, so I won't be able to get involved. I mean, I'm going to play that. I'll be honest, I've lost faith in all of those, all of them, essentially. But yeah, I mean, next time I can get on the test, I will get on the test. I've even heard that there's like in this game, I'm not sure if particular classes or not, but I've even heard that I've even heard in this game that like there's like mechanics and systems in place that stop you from like necros from root rotting or fear kiting or whatever. I don't know if that's true or not, but yeah, the whole design just feels so like it's like a, you know, you get like an open world shooter and a corridor shooter. It just feels so. Well, it is for me. Like my health's been pretty bad recently, so I'm normally done by about that time. Wouldn't it be cool, like to classic EverQuest, who had to just come to the dungeon entrance here and just pull a few mobs and faff about there? But nope, not in this game. Yeah, but you know what the saddest thing is it doesn't need to be. It doesn't have to be. Much like Embers Adrift, you know, it doesn't have to be. But it's clear that developing an MMO for the vast minority of MMO players is just not the way to go. And you know, while they keep thinking that the only people that want to play MMOs are players who can log in and group all day every day, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. But anyway, you know, we're pissing into the wind, aren't we? So waste of time. Yeah, I don't think it would change over this, because I just think that I think the general classic MMO population are not the people that these people are listening to or trying to appeal to. At the end of the day, that seems to be how it is. I just don't think that seems to be how it is. As I said before, like listening to that stream was pretty disheartening, because it was just players who, you know, this is the minority. The people still playing this game are the minority who can just log in all day, and they've got a pre-made group or guild or whatever, and that's it. That's, you know. And those people, I guess, will say, well, that's what MMOs are designed. Those are the people that MMOs are designed for, but it's never been the case, you know. It's like, I don't quite understand it. Like I mean, like modern MMOs have a lot of issues, of course they do, right? But being able to run around and do things on your own is not one of those issues, because that's not. If you're going to complain about that for a modern MMO, well, then you've got to complain about it for classic MMOs as well, because those games also allowed you to do those kind of things. I don't think they will, though. As you see it, I mean, like, when can you, like, put yourself in? So, say you wake up. Say you've created an MMO and it's out there, right? And you log in. You wake up one morning and you look at your player base, and there's 5 people logged in. And like, this is not like 5 people per server. This is 5 people overall logged into your whole game. And then as the day goes on and it becomes a bit more, I guess, like prime time, there's like 20 or 30 people logged in. Now, I guess if I didn't have to worry about money, and I'm stubbornly sticking to my design philosophy, and I don't need to make any money or whatever, then I guess that's fine. You know, maybe you've got like an investor or some investors or some whales who are giving you enough money to keep the game going so you can do exactly what you want, irrespective of how many other people like the game. And I guess that's fine, you know, but for me, I don't know. Like if I mean, like when I move, like I've been studying some, there's this brilliant video, this guy who goes step by step, shows you how to create like some landmass or an area in a game I'm not sure it's Unreal, one of the engines. So when I move, I'm going to have a crack at, first of all, making myself a zone, designing a zone and going from there. But I just think that if I was sitting down to, if I was going to take the time out to sit down and create an MMO, I'd kind of want it, I'd want MMO players to play it, you know, like as a classic MMO player. You know, I'd like people that play P99 to play it, you know, and enjoy it. And you kind of want your own twist, but also you want certain things to kind of feel familiar, to work in a way that it respects the classic kind of ethos. Like I wouldn't design it stubbornly and then put it out there and no one's playing it. It's like, so what have I done this for? You know, it doesn't have to be about the financials. It's just, I think there's a fine line between creating a game that you're happy with and that's absolutely how you want it to be, and being a bit less stubborn when it comes to you know, the audience that you want to attract and what they want. So it's a balance between what you want and what the audience wants. Now Embers Adrift have done that, but I haven't really done it. Like they've changed some things over the last year or so. So they've added a compass, which is something that they said they'd never do before, and some other bits, some low-hanging fruit kind of, stuff that makes things a bit easier for players. But the overriding issue still is that the actual leveling process is just still far too slow. And you've got this, although it's not as bad as here, you've still got this like, segmented world where if you want to go and kill these mobs, you know, you have to, your group composition has to be this, etc., etc. It's just a binary. But anyway, I mean that's what I would do. I think probably if I was creating an MMO, I would. Well, I guess if I was creating an MMO, then I would, and I'm an EverQuest pro, and I want EverQuest players to play it. Then I guess it wouldn't be. It's not an issue because that's how I would design it in the first place. I wouldn't go, well, I want EverQuest players to play it, but I only want them to be in a group for dungeons and all that kind of stuff. It's just not, you know, I don't know. It's just me. Maybe it's just me. It's weird also how like playing Pantheon then going back to, like I played some P99 the other day, I was on the Warrior. It's weird how like I played Vanilla WoW, Classic WoW, the first couple of expansions, and I enjoyed it. But there was something about it that I didn't quite feel right. There was a nagging thing. I wasn't sure what it was. But playing EverQuest and playing Pantheon, I realised what it is. And it's that playing a warrior on P99 with the abilities and stuff, the lack of abilities and stuff they've got, is so much more enjoyable than sitting here and engaging than sitting here and clicking, waiting for numbers to disappear and then clicking something. I mean, I guess it might be also maybe that this, you know, the game is not as hard as EverQuest, I guess. It's pretty easy in comparison, I would say. Yeah, it's weird though. Yeah, for me, there's a psychological limit though. You know, like on Embers Adrift, for example, you get to level 15 to 20 and you realise like you have to kill 1,000 mobs to get to level 21. That's not like, as I've said it before, but for me, P99 is about my limit, including the hell levels. That's about what I'm willing to tolerate with regards to like leveling speed. But you're right. I mean, it's tempered by the fact that maybe if there's less to do, sorry, if there's a lot more to do and you've got loads of options for hunting and stuff, then it's fine. But hey mate, how you doing? This is a secret pre moving house stream. I've got so much work to do up until Friday, but as I said, like my health's been pretty bad, so it's difficult. I've got to. We're mostly done, packing point of view, but I'm stubbornly leaving my computer stuff out. Until the last moment. Because otherwise I literally have nothing to do. Hi Yamp, is that Pantheon like fighting chevrons and stuff? Yeah, the chevron system is horrible. I don't like it. I didn't like it in Embers Adrift. I didn't like the elite system in WoW Classic. To be honest, you know, it was like maybe have a few elites in a dungeon, like names and stuff. But I don't know why. Like Classic EverQuest, like solved the problem perfectly well, really, by what's going on here? By challenge being differentiated by levels and it's like level design. You know, it was part of the challenge in going into a dungeon in EverQuest was how the level was designed and the groups of mobs. You know, so if you go into a room and there's like 6 mobs, well, you got to work out how to deal with that. They didn't have to artificially. Oh, okay. They didn't have to artificially bump up make the mobs bullet sponges just to make it challenging. Wasn't that's interesting. Hello. Okay. Is it a Druid Grove thing going on here? I'm a Druid, but no. Yeah, I mean that just seems to be to me. I mean, if you're designing the game with a classic ethos, that seems to be how. If I come across a mob and it's red, obviously I know I can't kill it, but I know at some point I can come back and kill it later on. But with the chevron system, it's like you can't kill these mobs, and you can never kill them unless you come back in a group, or if you come back like, you know, where you're well over leveled. Oh, hello. Is it an undead spot? Looks like it. Oh, I've been here before. I mean, you can see for yourself, can't you, really? Like, when you run around, it's like most of the mobs available to you, they're just animals. It's just boring. I remember when I first came to this spot, because I spent some time hunting here with my not Shadow Knight equivalent dude, And I came here and I thought, oh, that's a nice snowy biome and stuff. Let's go and see what's up there. And I think, yeah, I saw that there's some orcs, but they're chevroned. So these are just like wandering mobs. So it's not even a case where I think to myself, well, I get a few levels and I come back here, this will be a good hunting spot. It won't. It's not, because I can't. And this like this outdoor stuff as well. I mean, it's not even as though someone can argue and say, "Oh, we'll just get a group and stuff." But if you get a group, groups don't want to come here and kill some roaming orcs. They want to go to a dungeon. Of course they do. Anyway, I know I've moaned enough. I think like I mean, I know I've said in the past a lot that I don't like the term, you know, this game is just not for you. But I think that in this case, this game is probably just not for me long term. I changed my attitude towards MMOs actually, and the ones that I play. Like before, I used to just play anyone for whatever period of time. And I'm not sure if anyone else feels the same, but now I think about time investment now, and I think to myself, is it worth me investing time at the moment how it's designed? And the answer is no, because unless I want to log in and just find a group or start a group every time I play, then what I'm going to be doing mostly is fighting bears and wolves, and that's just not, you know, it's all right for a short time, but it's not a... The tree form is weird, because you don't... I don't think... Tree form is supposed to give you health regen, but you can't sit down, so you don't hardly get any mana regen. So it's like a mana regen and health regen, and I don't think health regen is particularly quicker than mana regen. So like, why would you go in tree form? Because you might as well just sit down and get both back. It's weird that when you go into tree form, you don't get the resting state, which is another horrible mechanic. Yeah, it's weird. Don't quite know why. I think what you said, Liz, is kind of like the general expectation, isn't it, of a role-playing game. Obviously, I think that a game should have like special mobs and raid mobs and that kind of thing. But like for the most part, you know, it generally it's based on your level, you know, your level in comparison to the mob's level. I also kind of find that it breaks my immersion. So if I'm running around and I come across just a camp of a group of random humanoids, and they're all chevroned, I think, well, what training have they had that I'm not having? That means that they're 10 times stronger than I am. What they're just humans. They're not like tagged as like superhuman or whatever it may be. So what is it about this humanoid, this human, which is the same as me, that makes them so much stronger? And it's just a convenience, just a design thing. There has been a bit of content update. I think a couple of new classes as well. But for the most part, yeah, I would say it's still very light on content. You can swim now, yeah. This is a druid that they just put in. But you know, as I said before, it's pretty uninspiring. It's not really. There's no new ideas here. So I think what I would do, so like, obviously I'm not a game designer. I did work in gaming, actually, game design for a little while. But just from an experienced role-playing CRPG player, an MMO player, I think what I would do here is I would remove all the chevrons, and I would, what's the word? Not retroactive. I would change the, I would move the difficulty down the chain. So this bear here was yellow. Obviously, killing a yellow mob in EverQuest would be quite unusual. But not impossible, but I wasn't paying attention that much there. It wasn't particularly difficult. So what I would do is make this mob that's yellow, the difficulty of this mob, I would scale it, I would move it down the chain, oops, so that it was maybe an even con or a blue mob. That's what I would do. So get rid of all of the chevrons and move the difficulty down a scale. So yellow mobs become even cons become blue. Maybe even like this yellow mob here becomes a blue difficulty, maybe in the blue level range. And yellows become, I don't want yellows to still be the chevrons, so like it's mentally hard. But just move the difficulty down the chain a bit. So blue mobs are harder than they are at the moment. And then when you're designing dungeons, just make the difficulty in volume and mob placement. It's not. That way you then get scenarios on, like you get on P99, there's things that people loved, where you got all those crazy enchanters going around doing amazing stuff, on their own and all that kind of thing. Yeah, so this bear's blue. As you can see, I'm having to use hardly any of my resources here to kill the mob. Whereas with the yellow one, I had to use quite a lot of my mana and stuff. It felt more a bit like I was, turtling, I guess, the mob. So yeah, just that kind of seems to me to be the way to solve the chevron issue. Is just move the difficulty scale down to make the mobs harder. I don't know. I'm not keen on the spiders. The spiders have got this attack that I don't know if it hits or doesn't hit sometimes. Tarsal something, or it does a lot of damage. It feels like it does anyway. I do have like a damage blocking thing. Do you know what it is? I think I've said this before, but do you know what it is? Do you know what it is about cooldowns? Is that it just becomes about a boring rotation that you wait to do every 10 to 20 seconds or whatever it may be. I think that's what I find so unengaging about it. It just... and the class itself is not like on my Shadow Knight. I can't remember what the class is. What's the class in this game called? It's a Shadow Knight, but it's not. I actually really like the class. Actually, it's probably my favourite class so far. But there's not a diversity in skills, which means it's worth you doing like another rotation. So you might also, so you end, because of all these cooldown abilities and stuff, you end up just picking the rotation that's the most efficient. You just keep repeating it over and over again. It's a bit dialogue. That's it. No, not really. No, like I killed some humanoids the other day, and I picked up some leather bits. I don't know where this staff came from. I think that staff might have dropped off of one of the. No, but as you can see, like a lot of slots are not even, haven't got anything in them. Hang on a sec. That might be me. When it was night time, I had to do some gamma stuff. Probably looks too dark now. But no, you're right. Some of that issue is to do with OBS though. This looks quite dark now actually on OBS. I'm not sure how it's coming across to you. Should we see if we can see what happens up here? It doesn't matter if I die. I don't care, to be honest. Let's just go and have a little look. I think that this section has got the climatization system in, so you get colder as you go along. I don't know what happens if you get to a point where you freeze a lot, though. I've heard about it. I'm not sure if that's the first time it's happened, but yeah, I definitely give that a go when it comes out. As long as they keep it like you know, as long as they keep it true. I'll check it out. There's a video on YouTube that's got millions of views, and it's some guy who goes through the process from start to finish on like creating a. I don't think it's an MMO zone particularly, but he creates like an area. So I'm gonna. I might do like a streaming series on it. Might be quite fun. I'm trying to learn. Yeah, might stream it, trying to learn. Might be quite interesting. What I want to do is create my idea. I've got this idea for a zone. I've got lots of ideas for zones, but the one that I wanted to try first was a coastal zone. So, and the zone is governed by the what's it called? Oh God. It's governed by the tide, basically. So you have a big area like this, say, but bigger. It goes right over there. Whatever. It's a massive area, and here's the sea. And you approach the area. I'm not sure how you do tides. I mean, getting to do tidal stuff is probably a nightmare. But you approach the area, and if the tide's out, there's loads of mobs in. Oh God, someone just moved in upstairs, and you might hear some hammering. I do apologise. But you come to the area, and if the tide is out, then there are mobs and stuff you can kill and whatnot underneath the ocean and whatnot. But you've got areas you can't get to. But when the tide is in, then you can swim to them. So it would be something quite interesting like this. So that for whatever reason, maybe there's some kind of weird moon thing going on or whatever. But when the tide comes in, you can work out how high it's going to be. So you've got different levels. So you can't get to this area until the tide comes in. And this area's got a dungeon in it. Okay, so the tide comes. So you might wait around for the tide to come in. You swim across. You get up onto this area, and you start camping and go in a dungeon. But the tide goes out again. So then when you come out, you're kind of then in a situation where maybe potentially you're waiting for the tide to come in and whatever. But the tide height might be random. I'm not sure how that would work. So then you've got a different layer above that area where if the tide comes in enough the next time, then you can swim up and get onto this location. But then when the tide goes out, obviously then you're stranded there for a period of time until the tide is... I thought that might be quite an interesting mechanic for zones. I'm not quite sure how I'd work it out. Like I'd want it to be a bit of a bastard zone, so you couldn't... Once the tide had come in and you'd reached a point and the tide ran out again, you couldn't actually leave that location until the tide came in again. I'm not sure if that meant that there would need to be like a big drop that you just killed you, essentially. I don't know. But I want to be a right bastard about that. And yeah, but it's... I don't think I've explained it particularly well, but there are locations that are only available when the tide is at a certain height. There's still stuff to do in the zone, because when the tide is out, there's still mobs and stuff to kill in the water and whatever it may be. But yeah, it's like that was one thing that I've got them written down somewhere, but like a tidal zone that's affected by the tide. I don't know how I do that in Unreal though. Like there must be a way where water comes in. There must be like something where you can get water just to come in and out, basically to fill up a bit, and then you can kind of swim up and stuff and whatnot. That was something that I quite like the idea of. Yeah, but like, once I've moved and stuff and we settle in and whatnot, I'm gonna try and learn. At least, well, I mean, from like creating mechanics and putting them in a zone and stuff. I've got no idea about that, what that entails. But I'd like to create an area first that's got some interesting mechanics and stuff. Yeah, the transition to the snow area really needs to be sorted out. I can't believe someone started banging. That's bloody annoying. Don't know if you can hear it or not. If not, then that's all good. Well, the other thing that I quite like the idea of is I was thinking about... I reread Lord of the Rings again recently, and I'm just reading The Magician. The Magician nicked a bit from Lord of the Rings, where they meet Dolgan, the dwarf, and because the pass is snowed in, Dolgan takes them under the mountains. Essentially, it's a bit like Moria, basically. And that's where Thomas gets the dragon armor. Eventually he finds the dragon armor in the dungeon. Yeah, but I also kind of wanted to create an area like that where you... I'm not quite sure why. Again, it could be like a magical thing, I guess. You can hear the banging. Sorry about that. Yeah, so there's like a pass, and you get this... There's some issue, there's some magical thing has happened, and you just get these quick snow storms that block it, you know, for a period of time. So you enter the pass and then you can't get out again. But maybe a bit like Lord of the Rings or whatever, on Magician, there's like there's a way under the pass. So So maybe you get in. If the pass blocked, you can come back under, but maybe coming under is more dangerous and whatever. Jesus Christ, he runs very quickly. Anyway, yeah, that's something I've got. It's a plan I've got. at some point. It's interesting also seeing what, and I kind of got the idea of what they were talking. It didn't really make any more sense to me, but like I was watching a conversation on the stream. I saw a conversation on. I mean, yeah. I think so, as we're moving out, I think someone just moved in to another place, so they're doing stuff. Yeah, I saw a conversation on Discord about a similar kind of thing, and because I can't understand why people keep saying this game's like EverQuest. It doesn't make any sense mechanically or whatever. And someone said the reason that people are saying it is because of things like there's no instances for dungeons and what have you. But really, when you look at it, that's the only thing really that's the same as EverQuest. It's not a UI change, really. There's not a UI similarity. I mean, I'm struggling to think of any other mechanic. I mean, like people were saying, it feels like EverQuest because you log in and you have to talk to you do that, innit? You have to talk to your friends and you get in a guild. Well, you do that, and you do that in modern MMOs. It's like there's weird things that people attribute to like. That people attribute to like classic MMOs that you kind of do in any MMO. But that was that was the interesting thing. In the same conversation, like someone said that this game is clearly designed like after like classic WoW rather than classic EverQuest, and I think that it's spot on, like mechanically when you look at things and stuff. If the banging gets annoying, just let me know and we'll call it a day. I think it actually happens to be right above my office. That was lucky. Oh, ivory handled short bow. Do you know what? The more I think about it, the more I think that. I might be worth trying that as an experiment. Like, if you're a devs, like create. I mean, that was an even con mob. It wasn't really. I was like, whatever. Whereas I think you wouldn't have that feeling fighting an even con mob in EverQuest. So maybe I would create a little server, like a private server, and just get rid of the chevrons and see how. I mean, this is what I would do, right? If they want love chevrons, they don't want to get rid of them. Well, then that's fine. It's not my problem. Just do what you like. But I kind of feel that there's a way of. Do you know what? This is the first humanoid camp I've found where the mobs are not chevron. So at least it means that there's something else to fight other than bears for a short period of time. Yeah. Just move all of the difficulties down one or two. So yellows become evens and blues and that kind of thing. But then thinking about it, I guess you think of a solution, you come up with a problem, don't you really? The issue, I guess, is that unlike classic EverQuest, as you just said, more like a WoW clone, which it definitely is that like all of the classes have got loads of abilities and stuff, like even the warriors, right? So it's very different to EverQuest, where if you get into a fight as a warrior, you haven't really got like any oh shit buttons. Whereas with this design, obviously all of the classes have got loads of buttons to press. So, I mean, that's obviously having an impact on the. It's also having an impact on the difficulty, isn't it? Like if you took these classes out of this game and put them into EverQuest, EverQuest would be a lot easier, I guess. Like if you put these on P99, if you took a warrior from here and put it on P99, it wouldn't be the same experience, would it? I guess so. Yeah, maybe that wouldn't work. I don't know. Maybe unfortunately, a WoW class is designed more like WoW means that you have to artificially bump up the difficulty of the mobs because every class has got a shit ton of cooldowns to press. Well, I think, like, to be honest with you, I think from a class and combat point of view and challenge and that kind of thing, I think I'm probably talking out of turn, because I would say it's clear that irrespective of what people keep telling us, streamers keep telling us, and Discord, the developers are not... Oops, what the hell? The developers are not designing this game around classic EverQuest. And I guess that's it. That is... Ultimately, that's it. So any issues we've got about the design of the game are kind of moot, really, because that's not how they're designing it. So, you know, there's some weird zoning thing there where if I go over that way a little bit, I change zone. Yeah, I guess that's it, I suppose. I mean, classic EverQuest has got... Huh? What? Yeah, I mean, classic EverQuest has got class dependency, but it feels like it's more in a... I mean, this game's got things like combos and stuff, so a class can use an ability and then they can combo, and then someone else can combo off of it and that kind of thing. So, I mean, I'm happy with just the healers heal the tanks and, you know, CC do the CC. That's as far as it goes, I think, for me. Bugger off. He's still coming. Okay, so that bear assisted that mob. Fair enough. Yeah, I don't mind the zone. I don't mind the actual visuals now. I mean, I didn't like them initially, and I still think they look far too cartoony. But yeah, I kind of got over it. It's not really an issue now. The lighting's very good, actually. I guess that's an Unreal thing, particularly at night. Yeah, I mean, when you look back at old streams from, well, like 5, 6+ years ago, I don't know, if it seemed more like EverQuest. I'm not sure if... I know, like, some people who... There's some conspiracy theorists. I mean, I think I've said it himself, probably, that they probably, you know, when Brad died, maybe they changed the design and things became different. They tried to appeal to a different audience, maybe that's the... but I think, yeah, I mean, before I created a video recently, like a review type video recently, I did go onto the website, and it says classic MMOs. It doesn't actually specifically say EverQuest anymore. So, and actually, I did watch a stream with Jopper, and someone in the stream said this feels more like a WoW than anything, and he didn't disagree with that. So, yeah, I guess that's just what they're going for now, you know, which is Yeah, which I guess just makes everything else mute. You know, you do it, they do it. Whatever happens, happens. I suspect what will happen is very similar to what happened with Embers Adrift. This game will probably have more players overall. Yeah. But I feel it'll be a similar... It'll come out, you know, there'll be a big hurrah at the beginning, but eventually... there was lots of EQ talk in the early days, but I think that was when Brad was around. But yeah, even on the official website, I think it says classic MMOs rather than mentioning any kind of specific one. Yeah, certainly from like financially, I can't. Even though I think Classic WoW's been pretty good, isn't it? I'm not sure if it's like, obviously it's not as popular as it was back in the day, but I can understand, like, you know, I can definitely understand. Yeah, I think the very early streams, but I would probably say in the last couple of years, certainly since early access has come out, like the whole EverQuest thing, I think has been dropped mostly. As was said earlier, I think what you've got is you've got some legacy Pantheon backers who were told it was going to be like EverQuest. They desperately want it to be like it. I mean, I've seen people try to argue that it's like EverQuest, and their arguments don't make any sense because most of the similarities they point towards are, as I said, like UI elements. They do talk about like instancing and that kind of stuff, but really, like if you added instancing to P99 tomorrow, it still wouldn't be Pantheon. You know, let's be honest. There's so many differences in mechanics and stuff that it's not just about instancing. It's quite a small. Well, no, that's kind of where we are, aren't we? I guess it's a bit like pre-ordering still. Unfortunately, there are still enough people who will pre-order a game to make it worth publishers putting all that pre-order shit in. We're not at a point where everyone stopped pre-ordering, and I guess there's still enough people who will back an MMO if their favourite dude is involved. But yeah, I mean, I'm at that point where I wouldn't back another one. I don't think not without there actually being a game to play first. Anyway. Yeah, I try to fool some. I mean, I don't know. I know when I create videos, I get the when I create MMO videos, particularly about the indie ones, I get a few people who always turn up and they just seem to think I'm some sort of hater. Like, oh, it's all the toxic players' fault, you know. But I think it's just, but I think you have to, like, I just try and judge things based on, like, so what was I told, and what did I get? Basically, that kind of seems to be I think that seems to be a fair way to judge things. Oops. Oh, poor old Shroud. Shroud made me the bitter MMO player I am today, I think. And I think what happened, kind of feel a bit sorry for, not that he gives a shit what I say anyway, really. Ultimately, just some old bloke shouting into the wind. But Embers Adrift got all of my frustration because I went from Shroud to that, and it was like, oh, not again. Not again. Yeah. Definitely a bit of an Alf Garnet. I think it just happens. I think it's just like the Ken and Perry scene. If those of you don't know, the Harry Enfield thing, where is it? Perry goes to sleep. There's one of the scenes where he goes to sleep and he's 12. He wakes up the next morning and he's 13 and he's completely changed. I think there's a point where you do turn into a bit of an Alf Garnet. It was watching like I watched this. I watched this. It's not really ASMR, but I watch. There are these dudes on YouTube that walk around where they live with a camera, and it's just like an immersion thing. And I've always been a bit of a Japanophile, so the Japan ones I like, the Tokyo ones I sit there watching them for hours, and my wife was watching one with me last night, and I just really got on her nerves. I was going, look at all these Western hipsters wandering around Tokyo, bastards. They've only gone there because it's trendy. They don't know what it's like. They didn't care before it became trendy to go to Tokyo and wander around with your camera. And I was looking at all these hipster blokes who dress like fucking school teachers and with their partners who all got blue or green hair or something. And I'm like, you know what these people did? They watched Akira once and suddenly thought they were experts in Japan. That's yeah. That's my Alf Garnet rant about. If you don't know what Alf Garnet is, look it up. You'll and my pleasure. These guys are not OG Tokyo Japanophiles. They're just tourists, the bastards. That's what I was saying last night. I was going, yeah. Then I went on to Geek Culture. After that, I think she'd zoned out by then, and I was going, you know what ruined Geek Culture or whatever gaming culture? Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, and Harry fucking Potter. That's what's ruined it. You had all these normies watched Game of Thrones, bought a fucko pop, and thought they were OG fantasy kind of people, and they weren't. Didn't even know there was a Game of Thrones book before the series came out. Bought their Jon Snow Funko Pop, put it on their shelf, and that's it. Oh yeah, I'm a fantasy fan now. That's all those fuckers. All those fucking normos have ruined it. And do you know what they're doing now? Do you know what they're doing now? Reacting to all the shit Disney put out on YouTube. That's what they're doing. With their shelf full of Funko Pops in the background. They got anything cool? They got any scale models of Gundam or anything? No, of course they haven't. It's all fucking Funko Pop shit. I mean, you know, like Lord of the Rings films, they're alright. Some of them. I mean, I'm harder on them than others because Tolkien is my thing. You know, I don't think they're brilliant, but I like them. But it did a lot of harm, I think. And you might, you know, people might say that I'm roadblocking or whatever it's called. But yeah, I mean, a lot of fuckers came in who just didn't give a shit about that kind of stuff. They watched it because their friends said, "Oh, watch Lord of the Rings," and they still, most of them still haven't read the books. They bought their Aragorn life-size cut-out cardboard fucking model standee thing, and that was it. Arseholes. Now what have we got? And that's when all of the stuff started changing from a journalism point of view as well, because all of these like fresh out of Compton fucking people who never heard of Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings before, they studied social impacts on X, Y, and Z, decided to get into gaming and stuff because it was a way they could influence people and push their shit. Now what have we got? Look at what we got now. Look at the state Star Trek's in, or Star Wars, or anything, basically. Absolute mess. Anyway. Do you know what, Liz? Like, I'm not going to lie. A K9 Funko Pop, that's pretty cool, really. I mean, most of these fuckers wouldn't even know who K9 was if you showed it to them. Oh, you know, it really is the one thing that infuriates me now, like how this, where we are with this kind of stuff. I guess it's because I don't have much else in my life to get cross about. But yeah, like where geek culture is and the infestation of fucking idiots into it. There's just we should have just gate kept it solidly. I'd have happily stood there with a big axe, gatekeeping it. That's what we should have done. But it's too late. I know it's going to get dark in a minute. A lag. Blimey, mate, that is an understatement. Holy moly. I saw a thing the other day that said that I think it's not a new thing, but I think they did another recent poll where they said that I'm going to have to turn the gamma up a bit so it might get a bit washed out. Well, they said I think it was on Steam maybe, and I think also like GOG's doing really well. But I think they were saying that many gamers at the moment are playing games that are like 5+ years ago or something or whatever. Yeah, and also I think it started way back with the PS1. Actually, I mean, I love the PS1. You know, I imported one from your Japans when it came out. Yeah, but that was like the PS1 was made gaming cool. That's kind of where it all started, really. Yeah. I think it was on GOG as well. I think on GOG. I mean, GOG is kind of like quite a retro thing anyway, but I think GOG's so popular because it's got all those old retro games that people are playing. Yeah, I don't know if it was like 5 or 6 years or something, but games 5 or 6 years old are the most popular, and you know, and earlier than that are the most popular on Steam or something. It's easy to get shut down, though. I think that's the thing. I think that things are a bit different. I think things are changing, but it was easy to get shut down before because, irrespective of what sort of person you are, and even if you know you're not, you still don't want to be called a racist or a bigot, and you don't want to be called those things publicly. So even though you know you're not, you know, that was how they were shutting you down, keeping you quiet. But I think people are starting to realise. Also, I think Trump getting in the first time like had a massive impact on stuff as well. Like like what's it called? Like all these celebrities and stuff had TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, wasn't it? That definitely happened, and you could see that. You could see how. Like I remember watching the first season and a half of The Boys. Right, it was all right. Like it was. There's nothing like the comics, really. It's shitter than the comics, but it was all right. I quite enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed watching Homelander, you know, pull people's heads off and stuff and whatnot. But then it just went completely downhill, and the creator or whoever it was just had a massive like meltdown about social stuff, and it just became unwatchable because it just became like propaganda for him, and that's all it became about. You know, like the quality drastically went down. The only reason to still watch it was to see what Homelander was going to do. There was no other reason. It was just absolute garbage. I don't think things have changed dramatically as much as some people want to think they've changed. I think there's been a bit of a change. You know, games, you know, bad games are just not selling. TV shows are getting cancelled here, there, and everywhere and whatnot. But yeah, I think there's it's a whole Overton window thing, isn't it? Where a side pushes stuff enough until you it kind of in your brain, like subconsciously, it becomes like normal, like mainstream. I think the thing is that the social, it's like you've got, it's like recently with like the Fallout TV series, like, or Star Trek. You just got these people who have never watched it before, don't understand it, but they've watched it because I don't know, their social media bubble has told them to watch it, and it's like, oh, Fallout, oh yeah, we love Fallout because it's like about capitalism and we hate that and we hate fascists and it's not about that. Fallout was never about that. What are you talking about? Or Star Trek? No, Star Trek was never about that. These bears help each other on. I'm not sure. Yeah, there's so much like revisionist stuff going on, or what's it called? I can't remember what the term is called. I haven't watched it yet because everything's packed up, but I recently got is it a Blu-ray or 4K? I'm not sure. I recently got they released, oh my word. Hang on. I have to find it, I can't remember. An absolute mind blank. They recently released what was the British equivalent of Star Trek with Avon and whatever. I can't remember. What's it called? He smoked. Can't remember. I forgot the name. Anyway, I got that, and I'm looking forward to watching through that. Blake 7, that's it. Yeah, I got the Blake 7 box set that came out recently. It might only be Blu-ray, actually. I can't remember, but I'm so looking forward to watching that. That was just absolutely amazing. Yeah, I hate this thing where like the one side says they try to make excuses up for stuff that we have in games or films or whatever by saying everything's got politics in it. Everything's always been political. Well, of course it has, but you don't have a fantasy land where you can turn into a dragon using terms like pronouns and stuff and whatnot. It's just not. It always fitted in. I mean, you know, I've said it before. Like Mario Brothers is political. You could argue because there's two conflicting sides. But it needs to be natural. It needs to feel natural to the actual, you know, the lore and the world that you're in. Yeah, Blake 7 is just fabulous, really is. I don't think I've ever watched Lex. I'll have to look out for it then. Red Dwarf, obviously. Although Red Dwarf did fall, I can't remember what series it was, but it kind of fell off a cliff. Certainly when they went back, they should never have gone back to it. But it did fall off a cliff at one point. Yeah, but I mean that's all right though, because it's kind of always been there. But in general, it was always where it should have been, where it naturally, you know, where it would naturally occur. There's not like, it was, the politics was natural as part of the world that you were in, because obviously you're going to get that. You're going to get conflict and politicking and all that kind of stuff. If you didn't have it, it would be weird. I think but it's how it's being used and how it doesn't fit in with what we're seeing. Do you know what, Steve? Like before this move, we thought about moving to Italy to get away from it all. But yeah, from a family point of view, we couldn't really. But it's something that we're strongly considering doing in the future at some point. Yeah, well, Skyrim was the one that really kind of seemed to, again, like Skyrim is the normie version. I think, not saying it's not a good game, but I think Morrowind and Oblivion, I think, are better games personally. But I mean, I love Daggerfall as well, so you know. See, this mob was pretty challenging. It is like an orangey type colour. Maybe it's a bit too challenging to be a blue, but you could certainly move it down, move this difficulty down to a different level. Maybe it could be an even con or something. But that's only if you got rid of the chevrons, of course. Ah, that's nice. I'm not quite sure how it works now moving to Europe after the old Brexit thing. I think you can still do it, but I'm assuming there's probably loads of hoops and stuff to jump through. It's Italy though, right? I mean, you just give someone a backhander. I'm sure you'll be fine. Yeah, Farscape was pretty decent. I mean, Star Trek up until Voyager was pretty good. Deep Space Nine was really good. Babylon 5, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed Babylon 5 at the time. I think more because I think I was working with Amigas at the time, and they used Amigas for a lot of the visuals, didn't they? Do you know what the current ideological stuff that's going on, like the out of place stuff, which is most of it generally, is that it does dull my enjoyment of some stuff that I liked before that you wouldn't quite call retro. You start to spot things and your mind's like, oh yeah. So it's even if it's a show from 10 or 15 years ago, I start to think to myself, oh yeah, so, the white bloke is the bad villain, is he? It wasn't something that I thought about before. But I think all of this stuff has made me more sensitive to it. I'm not sure if that's... I think I tried to watch The Expanse. A lot of people loved it. To me, I don't know, I think it felt a bit too modern, but again, maybe that was my oversensitivity to stuff. I'll be happy to admit that might be what it is in that regard. See, I don't think that like there was a big controversy recently with I say big controversy, like with some, I guess what you would call them anti-woke game reviewers suddenly liking Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and like for me personally, it's not. It should always be about the intent behind something. It's not about the fact that there's a black person or a gay person or whatever it may be. It's about what's the intent behind it. It's not their fault that they're there. Okay, they're actors, they've been picked, go and do it. Right. So it's about what's the intent behind it, what are they trying to do. So that's really what it's about. It's not about the who, it's about the people behind the scenes who are the fucking shits who want to push this on you, and the only reason they're doing it is because that's what it's all about. It's not about creativity or creating the best product. It's purely ideology over creativity, essentially. That's the issue. Yeah, but I definitely think that I've become oversensitive to certain stuff. I'm going to pull this up here, but it might not be a good idea because I think there's a bear over there. No, it's dead. But what I was about to say is that some people use the fact that if it's so like out of the big group. I mean, I've stopped watching most of them, including Critical Drinker. But like his thing was, well, if it's well written, and I'll ignore the ideological stuff. But I don't agree with that. I don't think you can. It's still there, and the intent behind it is still the same. It's just in a better program. So I don't think you should ignore it. Personally, I think that either you push back against all of it, or you don't push back against anything at all. Yeah, honestly, Steve, I said at the start of the stream, um, it's another game, it's another MMO that I won't probably put too much time into. Um, I mean, I felt like streaming a bit this morning, so this was literally the easiest game for me to fire up and stream, basically. And I'd kind of leveled a druid to level 12 just to see what it was like. Yeah, it's I think unfortunately, and you know, maybe it's unfair to compare it or whatever. I don't know. That's what a lot of people tell me when they get angry about something I say in a video. But it's just it just doesn't have any of the nuance or the sandboxy or the open-ended design elements that classic EverQuest has got. I think, as we said before, it's more like WoW than EverQuest, and yeah, I don't really feel like putting a lot of my time into a WoW clone. Really, I mean, I'm enjoying some of it. Like, I don't mind the combat; it's fine. But there are some decisions, like as I said before, the chevrons, for example, which is just a bad design choice overall. I don't like that binary design, you know, whereas in EverQuest you went into a dungeon as your character, your class. You could go in on your own or in a group, and you could have an experience depending on your group makeup, irrespective of your group makeup. It was all about you against the dungeon, essentially. The dungeon was like a sandbox for you to play in. But in this game, you know, the chevron system means that you can't go in a dungeon unless you've got a group, and I think that's the biggest issue of it. Yeah, I mean, I'm quite excited by Monster Memories. It's also tempered with like a wait and see thing to see how it goes. It feels like it's a lot more designed towards a classic EverQuest experience, but you know, you never know. You never know how things will change or whatever. But yeah, it is. I think it's the next one. We're hoping it's gonna. I mean, to be honest with you, I think some people can see you're kind of done with MMOs, but I'm not really. I'm desperate for an MMO to sink my time into. You know, absolutely desperate for it. As I said before, like I'm a lot more picky now as to how I spend my time. Like before, like 10 years ago, if Pantheon had come out, I would have just played it just for the sake of playing it because it was a new MMO, even if I didn't like it or there were things that I didn't like about it. But now I'm a lot more picky. If I don't feel that I'm going to invest, it's not going to be a long term. Then I'm just out much quicker than I used to be. I know I should be skinning them, but I can't be bothered. Yeah, but M&M seems bad next. The next thing. Yeah, but I'm still cautious about it. I'm not, you know. Yeah, I didn't really play Get Vanguard when it first came out that much, and I know a lot of people have a lot of fond memories of it. But again, I think I'm not quite sure how it was implemented, but I think the whole chevron thing again would have probably put me off. I think, you know, it's just not. I just don't like that design. I think the natural barrier to content that you can interact with should always be, in a role-playing game, should always be your level for the most part. You know, I mean, like EverQuest, you know, I'm not adverse to like raid mobs and dragons and stuff, but it makes a lot more sense. But yeah. I mean, I started playing P99 again, and I think that really, I want to do some more leveling with my with my paladin. I didn't really get that far with him, so when I move and I get going again, I'll do some more paladin stuff, I think. I think didn't Quam made too many changes, I think, didn't it really? Didn't they make quite a lot of changes to systems and stuff? Yeah, I think they introduced quite a lot of quality of life changes and things. Didn't they add instancing as well, I think? Well, I guess what do I like about P99? Well, I mean, I like it visually. I like the atmosphere. I feel really immersed when I'm playing it. Um, I love the fact there are so many interconnecting systems, from like factions to whatever it may be. But I think for the most part, the difference between this game and EverQuest is that if I look into a character in EverQuest and I think, okay, I'm going to go to Befallen or Nagina or Guck, or just pick a dungeon really. I can go there, and irrespective of my group makeup, for the most part, you can do stuff in a dungeon, which is to be honest, the most interesting parts of an MMO. It's there's no, as I said before, the barrier between myself and doing content in EverQuest is purely my level. There's no artificial barrier beyond, obviously, if I want to walk in and fight a dragon on my own, I can't do that, but that's fine because that's a small percentage of the content, and you understand that there has to be some raid and group content. But I can pretty much go to any, even in Kunark, even in Velius for the most part. Like, as you go out the expansions, a lot of it depends on what class you are. If you're an enchanter or a necro or a shaman or something, you can do a lot more, obviously. But those options are there. In this game, like earlier on in video, I found a dungeon, but it was basically gated off from me because of the chevron system, which I must have mentioned about 15 times in this video so far. I do apologise, but that's mainly the difference. I think is that the limits to what I can do in EverQuest is based around my level. So if I come across a camp and they're red to me, I know I can come back at some point and experience that camp. But if you go to a dungeon or you find an interesting camp in Pantheon, it's chevroned, which means that I can never go back to that camp unless I bring a group. And and like contrary to the opinion of some hardcore Pantheon players, classic MMOs. Well, when I say classic MMO, I'm talking about EverQuest, Ultra Online, and that kind of thing. They never like that. Like their encounter systems, reviewing you between you and the mobs, there was never an artificial barrier that was just, you can't kill this mob because it's in a dungeon, or we don't want you to. EverQuest was just never designed that way. And as I said before, it's kind of a moot point because it seems as though this game is now not really supposed to be like EverQuest. It's more of like a WoW clone, I get, which is what a few of us said previously. But that's why, like the combat encounters and dungeons were like sandboxes, and it wasn't determined by your group makeup or whether you're in a group or not. As I said, you could do, if you log in, there's no one around, or you haven't got a group. You weren't limited by what you could do, other than that level, which was your natural barrier. Well, I have to be honest, Steve. Like, if Eminem have used the niche, the N word, then I'm feeling slightly less confident about it. what does that mean? Like if you're creating a game based on EverQuest, and you're talking to an EverQuest audience mainly, it's not then really niche because the audience understands that anyway. I guess they're maybe just not just looking for EverQuest players, but I do get worried when I hear the N word. It's like, you know, what does that mean? What does niche mean? What are you gonna? Are we gonna? Our system's going to be put in place in the game, which you know, which don't feel like they're from a classic MMO, which is what all these other games are doing. We might die here, maybe. Maybe not. Yeah, I do. When I hear niche, I do worry because you shouldn't have the audience that you're trying to attract to an EverQuest clone. You shouldn't need to use words like niche, I think. Hey, mate. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's yourself that mentioned it before. I will give it a go. It does look quite interesting. But we should kind of. This is like my last stream before we move house. I'm just in the process of moving, so. Oh, here we go. Pick up a ton of bloody bears now, aren't I? Let's see if we can lose them by falling down. Oops. Oh, is it a dead end? Oh, get off the wall. Where did he come from? I've got no mana. That's a bad idea, isn't it? That's a bad idea. Let's try and run him off again. Yeah, I guess Steve. I guess what it's going to come down to is where it falls within that. You know, if it's like old school MMO, and it's like, I don't know, WoWy, EverQuest 2e kind of thing, then I've just got no interest. I've really just got no interest. I mean, I'm not looking for like an EQ clone in the sense that it's exactly the same, but oh bugger! I didn't think it would chase me in the water. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, but I'm definitely it's definitely what I'm after primarily. I think we survived. Yeah, I did some of the stress tests, and I was also in like a more of a long-term test a while ago before they stopped it. I mean, I like it, don't get me wrong. I think what can happen is that it's easy to get carried away with systems that sound like a good idea at the time, but when you implement them, the actual fun factor from a game point of view, it doesn't work out. But it almost feels as though developers kind of won't then go back on them and say, okay, yeah, maybe it wasn't a good idea. There's quite a stubbornness to it. Yeah. I mean, I have seen some design ideas in Monster Maze I don't like, and it doesn't feel particularly like a classic MMO. But you know, it's. I mean, the thing is that I guess you've got to try these things. I think that the issue comes again, something that we said much earlier on in the stream, is that if you wake up in the morning and you're looking at your MMO server and there's hardly anyone playing over a 24-hour period, you have to sacrifice some of your art or whatever, you know, and just go with what some of the players want because no one's playing, you know. And at that point, it seems pointless almost having the server up. You might as well just kill it at that point, you know. Yeah, that's it. I mean, there's a load of things that I mean, we could sit here and brainstorm all day about ideas to put into an MMO, but whether they work or not. I mean, one of the things that I pushed back on against Sean was you know, like they're adding in extra death penalties for in Monsters and Memories, and like at what point does it become unfun, you know? And it's like the other thing as well is like what I don't like is where you put a system in to mitigate some of the frustration of a system you've put in. So it's like, so when a class dies that has a spell book, they drop their spell book, which is an extra which is not something that you had in a classic EverQuest, for example. So then you think to yourself, well, okay, well that's going to cause problems because in classic EverQuest, I remember that when you got a wipe in a dungeon, for example, if that was the case, you almost probably couldn't do a corpse recovery. You relied on casters, maybe a magician casting his pet to tank a bit or whatever it may be, or a cleric healing you, or whatever it may be. So you've removed that option, but then they add in a system where you can have a second spell book in the bank, for example. Right, okay, so you die at a dungeon and you're bound outside and your spell book is in the bank, so what you got to do, run to the bank, get your spell book, come back again, blah, 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 blah. And then they was talking about introducing something like pack mules where you can store stuff, you can have a spell book. So it seems as though you've created an extra death penalty, but then you're having to input these other systems to kind of mitigate it, and it all just becomes too complicated. And so I guess the question is that why introduce it in the first place? What is it that... because difficulty and challenge can be fun as well. It's not like... So what is the fun side of it? What is the actual aim of it? Is it just to add another death penalty? In which case, I just think it just doesn't belong. Yeah, this is something I said before as well. Like in work, when I think back, if I was working on a project or something, like I've become like wed to some pretty shitty ideas when I look back, and you almost feel that you can't say they're shitty because then it's going to be, But yeah, sometimes there are just things that just don't work. And I just feel that when you're designing anything, I always think you should be looking at the fun first. That doesn't mean that it can't be challenging, because challenge can be fun. But what is it adding to the game? What is it actually doing? What impact? What long-term impact is it having on the players? I think those should always be the key things. I mean, to be honest with you, I play when I play on P99, I kind of have partly reached that point where I was finding myself thinking, and I think I mentioned this before, if I died, I was kind of thinking, well, what is this actually adding to the game? And people will say challenge and respect of whatever, but yeah, I must confess, I was, my thinking has kind of reached a point where I'm not sure anymore. I'm not quite sure what death penalties add to me personally. Maybe it's because I've been playing the games for so long. I just don't give a shit, really. So if I die and I appear and I've got to get my corpse back, or I die and I appear with all my stuff, I don't care. Either way. It doesn't affect how I play the game in any way. It's like people say, oh, well, I played WoW, and when I played WoW, I played it differently because I wasn't worried about it, even though WoW did have a death penalty. It's like, and I play EverQuest and I play it differently. It's more, maybe it's just because I've been playing games so long, I'm just numb to it, but I don't like... When I run around in EverQuest now, I don't, even if I go into an area that's over leveled for me or there's danger of dying, I don't give a shit. I'm like, oh, I don't even think about it. It's not, the death penalty has no impact on how I play the game anymore. It used to. I don't know what's changed about that, about these kind of punishments that we seem to think that we deserve when we play an MMO. Maybe it's because of the internet, and because it's so easy, it's much easier to negate these issues now. So on P99, for example, if you're in any sort of If you're in any sort of active guild, or you've got a few friends that play, the death penalty is almost worthless. Honestly, like I've been in groups where they've wiped, and some blokes like, oh, don't worry, I'll log in my level 60 plains geared epic geared cleric, and you're back on your feet in 10 minutes. It completely negates the whole point of dying, really. And the other thing as well is that the fact that we all do that means that we don't actually really care about the death penalty, because we're all, have you ever been in a group where you've died and someone said, no, don't do that, don't log in, no, I'm going to spend the next hour going and getting back to. Has you ever heard? I've never heard anyone say that. Even streamers, like a lot of the streamers that you would see. I mean, P99 is actually really quiet at the moment. I'm not sure if people are taking a break, or it's just been like a pretty downward trend with regards to players. But yeah, like watching a lot of the enchanters that used to play, and used to do all the daring dungeon stuff. I mean, it's great, and they were great players, and they did a lot of stuff that I couldn't do. But a lot of the ones that I watched had a pocket cleric friend who would. I mean, there was one I used to watch who just used to pile up corpses in a safe spot, and when a cleric friend came on, they would come and they would just come and res them essentially. So yeah, I mean, watching a lot of that stuff got me thinking, like, death penalties. I'm not even sure what they back in the day. Okay, when it was more of a thing, but I just don't think it is anymore. I don't think that, maybe for some people it adds a bit of danger and stuff. Maybe I've just become numb to it all. I don't know, but I just don't care. I just don't. It's not. And I think the fact that we all seem to go out of our way to negate the death penalty in the most efficient way we can. And some people say that the death penalty, that dying, having to get your corpse back, can be quite good from a social point of view, because you have to interact with other players. But again, you'll interact with people ultimately. Like you'll type into your guild, "Can someone help me get my corpse back?" Or you'll check your friends list. It's kind of, and I guess you are interacting with them in a way, but. Yeah, I think EQ2 Snorkel there. You basically said exactly what I've said a few times now. Is that if you're in a dungeon, and you die, and you're at a camp, and you'd worked to that camp, and you now weren't at that camp, that's punishment. That, for me, that's enough punishment personally. That's how I feel about it now anyway, because then I've got to work my way to that camp again, so that's the effort involved. Oh shit, I'm now not at my camp that I was at. There's the punishment. I personally don't feel the need that I need any more punishment than that to enjoy the game or to play it a certain way, but maybe other people do. I don't know. It's like I mean, to be honest with you, like even someone like me who's not a regular streamer, like I knew people, and if I died and there was someone on, I'd say. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm the sort of idiot who actually just soaked up the death penalties. Like I can count on one hand. So all the time I've been playing P99, 12 years or something, I'm not quite sure. I can count on one hand the amount of times that someone has resurrected me. Because I would just deal with it myself. Like some people will die. They'll die at Freeport. They'll die in like West Commons, and they'll appear at Freeport Gate, and they'll go, "Could someone bust me for a corpse recovery?" You're 2 zones away. What are you talking about? I've seen people ask for a port for a corpse recovery, literally 2 zones away, and they'll just sit there, continually asking for a port. They could have run the distance 10 times over. I'm thinking, honestly, sometimes I feel like messaging him saying, "What are you doing? Literally, your corpse is 2 zones away. Just run there. What the hell are you going on about?" So whereas I was the sort of person who would just soak it up. Like no matter where. I mean, I've been in Cunark before, and I've died, and I've appeared in Antonica, and I've run without Spirit of Wolf, naked. I've waited for the boat. I've got the 2 boats across to Cunark. I've navigated the zones. Died sometimes while doing this, but stubbornly doing it again. Yeah, maybe people might say that's a stupid thing to do. I should do that. But yeah, I kind of just soak it up. Death penalties. Okay. Right. Well, I think I'm going to stop the stream now because someone's just started drilling. And I need to work out what I want for my lunch. So I'm moving Friday, and I've got some plans, but we'll see how we go. Yeah, the ogre that lives upstairs, the dentist's in. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you again.